Alright, here we go. We are recording. That's good. I have my shaved beer right here. Still working on that. Alright, we are going to attempt to knot some brushes today. I have 2 handles, 2 knots, and we are going to attempt to do this. I have done this twice before in the past. We're going to attempt to do it successfully again. I have some Gorilla Epoxy, sets in 5 minutes, and it's clear. It's a 2-part epoxy. You can see one side is one color, the other side is the other. It does go in clear though. We'll just take the top off. We'll set that kind of facing upward as to not adhere to the couch. One thing I will say, you want to kind of look down the barrel, make sure that both ends are free and clear. If not, I have a toothpick on standby. You can kind of just give it a little something, just to kind of make sure that they're open and, you know, ready to move smoothly and evenly, because having them kind of in equal parts is the key to this. So, and if you caught on that maybe DK isn't this prepared and all this jazz, you were right. I actually had to get the toothpick on the second take. So we got the epoxy right here to the side. So before we get to the epoxy though, we have 5 minutes once we start mixing that epoxy. So before, I just have this nail file, but you could use sandpaper. I didn't want to go out to the shed, and this was handy. You see how the surface of these knots is rather smooth, and there's not too much texture going on? Well, adhering a smooth surface to a smooth surface can be done, but it's easier if it's a little bit rough and kind of the adhesive has more to grab onto when it's rough, and kind of like when you have two things with grit going against each other, there's more grab. It's kind of that concept where if it's just a little bit more rough, it will have more to grab onto. So I'm not trying to take a layer off the top or anything like that. I'm not trying to do like a huge reduction of material, but I'm just kind of trying to scuff up the outer edge, and that way there's a little bit more to adhere to, a little bit more to grab onto. And so just kind of going along the edge, trying to scuff it up a little bit. I'm not trying to do no damage or anything like that. Like I said, I'm not trying to take off a ton of material, but I'm just trying to scuff it up. And then we'll kind of take off the excess, because the excess will, you know, kind of get in the way of a solid a solid glue setting. Let's try to get some of that dust off. Now we have it a little bit scuffed up, a little bit more. You can feel it to grab onto, and that's a good sign. So I'll set that one there. We'll get over to this one. Same concept. Just try to scuff it up. Get a little scratches throughout. And that way, when it's time to get that glue set, that glue has some kind of ridges and valleys to get in between, helping it get a little bit more hold on this knot. And these are just things that I've been told. I did this exact process when I did my first 2 knots that I set myself, and worked pretty good. So haven't had my knot pull out or anything like that. So pretty simple, doesn't take a long time. Like I said, we're not doing like a massive reduction in product. All we're doing is scratching the surface really. So that should be good for both knots. I have multiple Q-tips on standby. You could use like a tongue depressor or any small a random stick or whatever, but you could use anything like that. You just kind of get the dust if there was any on there. Alright, so now we're going to start off to one side or the other. That way we can make separate piles 5 minutes apart. But what we're going to attempt to do is push down on this 2-part epoxy with even pressure. That way we get kind of an even amount of both parts of the mixture. See, we're not off to a great start. Okay, there we go. And I'm not trying to be conservative. You see how I kind of did that, like smash and flip, and then I'll pull back a little bit on the stick as to keep it from moving further down the line. Now, they've already touched. They are beginning to adhere. We have 5 minutes, basically. Now, this is a good amount of product right here. I've learned from my own mistakes, and I've heard from other people that the biggest mistake is kind of putting too much product and then having it ooze out the top. If you're setting an appropriate size knot and an appropriate sized hole fitting, there's not going to be much excess space unless you use like a, an odd sized filler of some sort, like a washer or a coin, whatever. I'm not going to be using those today. It doesn't hurt to kind of sand the inside of this as well, but it is kind of rough. So I'm just going to get it around the edges. I don't want to get it too close to the top of the opening, because it'll ooze up to that point all on its own. I just kind of want a smooth, even layer throughout. And then I also don't want like the fuzzies to be left behind. So we got that there. And then I'm going to get a little bit more and apply that to the back of the knot as well. I'm going to attempt to steer clear of the fibers, but just kind of mop it right around that ferrule there. And then I believe we should be good to go with this. Now we got both pieces here. I'm going to insert it. I'm going to kind of give it a twist as to kind of separate any air that might be trapped inside. And this is just, I'm just grabbing the hair firmly, but I'm, not a death grip, giving it a little inward pressure, and then I'm just twisting it like just gently, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to kill anything here. And then that's just, the twist is just to kind of get any like air that might be trapped inside, and then it also kind of like evens out. Like if there was a heavy spot over here and a light spot over there, that little twist kind of evens it out. And then we should be good to go there. I'll give it a little splay. One last push. And then I'm going to just try to leave that. Actually, I'm just going to set it over here to the side, since this isn't a flat surface. Alright. You saw how we did it the first time. We're going to attempt to do it again this second time. Now, this one is resin, not wood. It is fairly smooth inside. At this point, I'm kind of wishing I would have got some sandpaper. But I'm just gonna... It's not gonna work. I think we'll be okay. But it's kind of nice to have both sides a little bit scratchy, a little bit rough. Just because, like I said, gives that adhesive something to grab onto. We will survive though. So, I had it. Actually, I got some scratches in right there. Nothing crazy, but I did get some scratches along the walls. So, we're going to try to attempt to do this one more time. Try to pour this evenly if we can. And then we'll pull back on the depressor and then kind of give it a little squish and flip right there. That should be good. I also tried getting some Q-tips without a whole lot of meat on the bone. That way they didn't drag out too much. It is good. I know 5 minutes doesn't seem like a long time, but it's plenty long. It's plenty long time. Make sure that you're mixing this mixture thoroughly. It is important to make sure that the two parts have became one in order for them to create that kind of solvent and bond that they're intended to have. So just make sure you mix it in nice and heavy. And the epoxy isn't expensive, so don't be afraid to go a little gung-ho with the amount that you put down there. Just don't go gung-ho with the amount that ends up inside the ferrule here. And I'm just trying to make an even layer all around the outside. Woo! Good thing I missed the epoxy down there. That would not have been good. But just an even layer around the inside and around the bottom, the base. There we go. Looks like I did get a splash right there. It's definitely not the end of the world. It hasn't cured yet. So I'll set that right there. I'm going to go ahead and bring in the spare that has less of a mop trailing behind. And we'll just get that right on the base there. Go ahead and pick up a little bit more. Just try to get that to where it's around all parts here. Trying to avoid those hairs because you don't want glue in your hairs, obviously. Let's get a nice little mop around the base and around the perimeter. Now I think we're ready to adhere the two parts. We'll just get a firm grip, plunge it inside. Once you feel like you're at bottom, just give it a little twist. Kind of get all the hairs up from the side. Make sure it's all the way in. Like I said, a little twist. You should be good. 5 minutes. Should be set. I would not use it or get it wet for 24 hours. But that's about all there is to it, guys. Once this is all said and done, I'll bloom them, and they should be ready for shaving. So, not that hard, not that intimidating. Might be a little bit nerve-wracking on your first attempt. Might not want to have, you know, the most expensive handle or the most expensive knot for your first try, but if you get a cheap handle, cheap knot, and you just want to give this a go, I think it would be good to get at least one under your belt before you go gung-ho like this. But not hard, guys. Nothing to be intimidated about. You could do it yourself, no problem. So, 2-part epoxy clear. I believe the other one I used the first time around wasn't Gorilla Glue, so we'll see how Gorilla Glue does this time around. But some sandpaper, 2-part epoxy, some sort of Schwab. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. I just used Q-tips. If your 2-part epoxy has been used before, have a toothpick on standby to kind of clear those tubes. And that's about it. So, hope that was helpful. And hopefully you guys can get some knots set all on your own, save a few bucks. So, that's it for me. Cheers, guys. You'll be seeing these brushes in use pretty soon. So, have a good evening. Thank you for the support. I'll catch you on the next one.